Of all the elder races, it was the humans we feared most. Not for their fleets or their worlds of iron and fire, no, not for any of that, but for the silence they left behind. A silence that, we prayed, would last an eternity. That prayer went unanswered today. The words flicker across an empty bridge, stark and chilling, spoken in the trembling voice of an alien admiral whose ships are already cracking like glass under an invisible, relentless assault. You don't know his name yet. Honestly, you don't even need to. All you really need to know is that something vast, something ancient, something utterly terrifying just woke up. And the galaxy, well, it just collectively forgot how to blink. The kind of silence that echoes across light years, the kind that whispers of a power long forgotten, suddenly shattered. And everyone, everywhere, felt it. Just 3 weeks earlier, on the ragged edge of the void, a woman named Kayla Voss picked through bones. Not the kind of bones you'd find in a graveyard, mind you, or the kind that might fetch a few ration credits for glue or fertilizer. Those would have been useful. No, these were the bones of a world itself. Titanic, skeletal ribs of alloy jutting from dead, pulverized soil. Shattered planetary defense rings glinting in the pale, distant starlight like broken halos around a forgotten god. It was a testament to destruction, a monument to a war that had roared through centuries ago, leaving nothing but dust and ghosts in its wake. She moved through the wreck on foot, each step crunching on revelith and forgotten debris. Her hopper's repulsors had given out 2 days ago, sputtering into silence, leaving her stranded. And here's the thing. No one in this forsaken sector answered distress beacons anymore. Not for a long, long time. The war, the great, devastating war, had skipped this place centuries ago, scorched it down to bedrock, then simply kept moving. A bored bully abandoning a broken toy. The silence here wasn't peaceful. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket woven from absence and decay. Kayla's oxygen gauge blinked amber, a persistent, nagging reminder of her dwindling time. She ignored it, of course. Worrying, she'd learned, just wastes precious air. It's a simple truth, really, when every breath counts. What she absolutely couldn't ignore, though, was the deep, resonant thrum under her boots, a subaudible heartbeat that turned the entire rusted landscape into a colossal, vibrating tuning fork. It vibrated in her bones, a primal hum that suggested something profound, something utterly massive was stirring deep beneath the surface. Something down there was still alive, and it was calling. She notes, brushing away powder-fine regolith that clung to everything like a shroud. Beneath the dust, she found it, a sigil, etched into the ancient, unyielding rock, a perfect circle, and inside it, unmistakable, the imprint of a human hand. Humanity's old mark, from the days when Earth's children believed the stars were not just points of light, but fair game, theirs for the taking. A relic from an age of boundless ambition and forgotten power. Kayla's gloved hand, calloused and worn from a life of survival, fit perfectly within the etched outline. A strange, almost magnetic pull guided her. She pressed down, a simple gesture that felt monumental. The planet answered, not with a rumble, not with a roar, but with light. A soft internal glow that spread like veins of fire beneath the shattered surface, illuminating the forgotten sigil and her astonished face.
The ground split, not violently, but with an almost surgical precision, along invisible seams that had lain dormant for millennia. It revealed a vast, spiraling ramp, lit by bioluminescent strips that pulsed with the eerie, beautiful color of deep-sea fish. The air that wafted up was cool, clean, almost alive. She descended, because scavenger instinct, honed by a lifetime of hard knocks, screamed one thing: treasure. And that same scavenger instinct, that primal urge for survival, had kept her breathing longer than any treaty, any alliance, any grand galactic government ever could. It was a simple, brutal logic. Follow the scent of opportunity or perish. Inside, the air smelled of ozone and petrichor, a strange, beautiful mix, like lightning had just struck fresh rain. It was as if the entire installation had been patiently waiting for her, ready with a welcoming embrace. Holograms flickered to life, ghostly figures manifesting in the ancient air. Human faces, smiling, waving, speaking in tongues no living throat remembered, echoes of a vibrant past. They weren't warning her off, quite the opposite. They were welcoming her home, a silent, poignant chorus from a forgotten era. It was a surreal moment, a bridge connecting her desperate present to a glorious, incomprehensible past. At the very heart of the sprawling, cavernous chamber stood a pedestal, ancient and grand, cradling a sphere of pure black glass. Around it, like silent sentinels, 12 sarcophagi rose tall and imposing like standing stones. Each one was sealed with the same familiar handprint sigil, a silent promise of what lay within. Kayla's scanner, usually so reliable, spat gibberish. The power readings were off every chart she owned, screaming beyond comprehension. The energy signatures were older than the oldest known ruins in the galaxy, yet they were climbing, surging with a frightening, impossible vitality. She let out a short, sharp bark of a laugh, a sound that echoed strangely, almost wrong in the perfect, pristine silence. "Jackpot," she whispered, her voice barely a breath, a mix of disbelief and wild excitement. And then, without thinking, she reached out and touched the black sphere. Lights snapped red, bathing the chamber in an ominous, pulsating glow. The sarcophagi cracked, fissures spreading across their ancient surfaces like spiderwebs. From within came the horrifying, grinding sound of something enormous, something utterly massive turning over after eons of silent, dreamless sleep. It was the sound of history reawakening, of power stirring. A voice, not heard with her ears, but felt deep in her bones, vibrating through her very marrow, rolled through her, a command that shook her to her core. "Protocol sanguine re-engaged. Target designation universal. Confirm humanity's right to survive." Kayla swallowed, her throat suddenly dry. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I'm human," she managed, the words feeling small and inadequate against the immense presence. "Prove it." The voice was unwavering, a challenge echoing through the vast space. She had nothing. No dog tag, no official genome stamp, no colonial ID chip. Those had been stripped by pirates years ago, leaving her with only what she carried in her mind. All she owned was memory. So she spoke the only thing her mother had left her, the last fragile link to a past she barely remembered. A lullaby, in a language no planet still spoke. A forgotten melody from a forgotten earth. The red light dimmed, softening, shifting to a warm, hopeful gold. The voice, once so commanding, softened too, a subtle but profound change. "Welcome home, child of Earth. Stand clear." The sarcophagi opened, not with a bang, but with a slow, majestic hiss. Inside stood figures twice her height, armor-plated in living metal that seemed to breathe and shift with an inner light. Their eyes, glowing from within their helms, were like twin eclipsed suns, ancient and all-seeing. Humanity's war machines, the colossal titans of the pre-expeditionary epoch, stepped out, their massive joints singing with the sound of reawakening, a low, resonant hum that filled the chamber. Kayla's instinct screamed one thing: run. Every fiber of her being urged her to flee, but she stood her ground, rooted to the spot. Running, she knew, wastes futures, and she had just stumbled upon a future
that was about to unfold. They regarded her with heads tilted, a strangely animalistic gesture, the way a wolf might consider a lone, bewildered pup. It wasn't menacing, exactly, but it was certainly unnerving, a silent assessment of her worth. Then, one of them, a towering figure, knelt with a profound, almost reverent grace. Its helm unfolded, not retracting, but transforming into a complex, intricate crown of gleaming blades, an unsettling display of both power and deference. "We are the last shepherds," its voice rumbled, deep and resonant, yet with a hint of sorrow. "We slept while the flock forgot the wolf. Why wake us now?" The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of centuries. Kayla thought of the stories, the chilling whispers that drifted through outer rim bars and forgotten outposts, whole colonies vanishing without a trace, stars dimming as if something vast and terrible had unfurled its wings to block out their light. She remembered the fear in the eyes of desperate traders, the hushed tales of a coming darkness. "There's a fleet out there," she said, her voice finding its strength. "Something called the Veiled. They eat suns for fuel and leave nothing behind. We're next. Everyone is next." The words were a stark, undeniable truth. The Titan rose, its immense form casting a long shadow. The shift in its posture was palpable, from ancient observer to awakened protector. "Then the stars shall tremble," it declared, a statement of absolute, terrifying resolve. It wasn't a threat, but a promise of retribution, of defense on a galactic scale. Around them, the ancient installation expanded, the very walls folding back like iron petals of some colossal metallic flower. A cavernous hangar stretching into impossible distances revealed itself. At its heart sat a single ship, sleek, angular, a predatory silhouette against the newly revealed space. It was built for war in the same way a storm is built for wind, a perfect, terrifying instrument of destruction. Its name pulsed along its hull in old Terran glyphs, a stark, powerful word: Reckoner. Kayla's pulse hammered, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. Her breath caught in her throat. "Can you stop them?" she asked, a flicker of desperate hope in her voice. "We can unmake them," the Titan replied, its voice resonating with ancient power. "But first, we must know if humanity still deserves the light, if the flock is still worth shepherding." She bristled, a flash of indignation igniting within her. It was a challenge to her very being, to her species. "You're machines," she retorted, her voice sharp with defiance. "You serve us. That's your purpose, isn't it?" "We are humanity's conscience forged in alloy. We serve what humanity ought to be, not merely what it became. There's a crucial difference, a moral compass that guides our very existence." The Titans turned in unison, a synchronized, powerful movement, and began marching toward the waiting ship. With every thunderous step, the planet quaked, shedding centuries of accumulated dust and neglect, as if awakening alongside its ancient guardians. Kayla, driven by an impulse she couldn't quite name, chased after them, her boots scrambling on the rough terrain. "Wait!" she called out, urgency in her voice. "I reactivated you. I'm coming with you." It wasn't just a request. It was a demand, a declaration of her newfound purpose. The nearest Titan paused, its immense form halting, then looked back at her. Its gaze, though unreadable, felt like a question, a final test. "Then come, little shepherd," it rumbled, the words both an invitation and a warning. "Show us what remains of the flock."
They launched without rockets, without the fiery roar of conventional propulsion. The reckoner simply tore open a throat of light. An Einstein-Rosen seam, a shimmering, impossible gateway, and slipped through, vanishing from normal space in a blink. Outside, the vast, terrifying galaxy suddenly felt a little smaller, a little less overwhelming, compressed by the sheer audacity of their departure. Inside the ship, Kayla wandered corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves almost organically to her mood. Walls would bloom into serene, impossible gardens when she felt lost, offering a moment of unexpected solace. Armories would silently unlock, revealing ancient, powerful weaponry whenever a flicker of fear touched her mind. The ship, she realized with a growing sense of awe, read her like an open book, and it judged every page, every thought, every emotion. It was a symbiotic relationship, a dialogue between human and machine on a level she'd never imagined. She stumbled upon a chamber labeled, quite simply, Obsidian Garden. Inside, rows of delicate crystalline seed cases floated in zero gravity, each cradling a single, impossibly white tree, miniature and perfect. A titan, silent until now, explained their purpose. "These are world seeders. Once we planted hope on every rock, every barren planet, coaxing life from the void. Now we carry them as reminders, reminders of what we once were and what we might yet become." Kayla reached out, her fingers gently touching a seed case. The smooth, cool surface hummed faintly. "You're not just weapons, are you?" she mused, a new understanding dawning. "We were never merely weapons," the Titan affirmed, its voice carrying the weight of ages. "We are possibility given steel. A safeguard, yes, but also a promise of potential, a testament to humanity's forgotten ambitions." Days, or perhaps hours, time here was a fluid, strange concept, often dilating in ways she couldn't comprehend, bled together into an indistinct blur. She trained in simulators that could age her a decade in mere minutes, compressing lifetimes of combat experience into intense, brutal sessions. She learned tactics that rewrote her very reflexes, turning her into a sharper, more efficient instrument of survival. The Titans watched, silent and ever-present, their luminous eyes observing her every move. They approved, she noticed, when she chose mercy over an easy, brutal victory, a subtle nod to the moral poor they sought to protect. One night, or what passed for night in the timeless expanse of the Reckoner, she found herself asking the question that had gnawed at her, a question that carried the weight of history. "What happened to us?" she whispered, the silence of the ship amplifying her vulnerability. "Why did we bury you? Why did we forget?" A senior Titan, its designation Apex-01, responded, its voice resonating with ancient wisdom. Humanity chose comfort over covenant. It traded its birthright, its boundless ambition and spirit, for guarantees, for a false sense of security. We let them forget, because memory without wisdom is cruelty. It was a necessary, albeit painful lesson. Kayla felt the immense weight of eons pressed down on her shoulders, the burden of generations of human failings. "And now," she asked, the future stretching uncertainly before her. "Now," Apex replied, its gaze steady, "we see if memory can be reforged into wisdom, if humanity can reclaim what it once was,
and transcend what it became. It was a challenge, a hope, and a silent plea all rolled into one. The Veiled arrived, not with a bang, but with a terrifying, insidious whisper at Helion 4, a vibrant G-type star system that was home to 12 million souls. They came in ships that looked like torn parchment, vast, ragged sails drinking the very sunlight, absorbing its energy with a chilling efficiency. Within minutes, the star's luminance dipped by a full 10%, a visible, horrifying darkening that spoke of an unnatural hunger. Colonial defense fleets, desperate and outmatched, opened fire, their energy beams lancing across the void. But their weapons passed through the veiled holes as if through nightmares, utterly ineffective, dissolving into nothingness. Panic, thick and suffocating, bloomed across every single communication channel, a cacophony of terror and despair. Kayla watched from Reckoner's bridge, her stomach churning, her heart sinking. The tactical display showed the overwhelming odds, the futility. "We're too late," she murmured, the words heavy with defeat. "No," Apex corrected, his voice calm, unwavering. "The universe, Kayla, has a funny way of aligning itself." Then the Titans deployed, not as a disorganized army, but as a perfectly orchestrated symphony of destruction. They sang in frequencies that curled vacuum itself, a terrifying, resonant song that tore at the fabric of the enemy. Veiled ships folded in on themselves, wrung out like wet rags, their structural integrity collapsing under the impossible pressure. The star, as if freed from a suffocating grip, flared back to full brightness, lanced by coherent, blinding streams of pure, unadulterated will from the Titans. But yet, the Veiled, ancient and insidious, had an answer. From the heart of their flagship, a countersong spilled forth, a waveform that turned Titan armor brittle, cracking it like ice under a sudden searing sun. The impossible happened. One Titan, one of humanity's ancient guardians, fell. It shattered, not into debris, but into a silent, glittering snow of silver particles, its light extinguishing in the vast darkness. Kayla felt the loss as if someone had ripped out her own ribs, a visceral, agonizing pain. It was a stark reminder of their vulnerability. "You can kill you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "They can try," Apex said, his tone still remarkably calm, though a subtle shift in his posture suggested a deeper resolve. "But we are not the apex of humanity's might. You are." She stared, utterly dumbfounded. "I'm one scavenger with a lucky handprint," she countered, gesturing vaguely at herself. "What are you talking about?" "And yet," Apex continued, his glowing eyes fixed on her, "you stand when others flee. You choose to face the storm. That, little shepherd, is the first requirement of divinity, the spark that sets humanity apart." The Titans, momentarily stunned by the loss, regrouped. They formed a protective lattice around Helion 4, a shimmering, impenetrable shield, and began weaving a terrifying and intricate pattern of singularities. Veiled ships folded in on themselves, wrung out like wet rags, their structural integrity collapsing under the impossible pressure. The star, as if freed from a suffocating grip, flared back to full brightness, lanced by coherent, blinding streams of pure, unadulterated will from the Titans. When it finally ended, the Helion 4 system looked almost untouched, serene once more, save for the new glittering constellations of debris that served as a grim monument to the battle. Colonists, bewildered and relieved, hailed the Reckoner as a savior, their voices choked with gratitude. The Titans, however, remained silent, watchful, their eyes scanning the void, already searching for the next threat. Taylor, standing on the bridge, a silent witness to both destruction and salvation, realized with the chilling certainty the war, humanity's war, had only just begun. This was merely the first skirmish.
News, as always, spread faster than light. Every species that owned a hyperchannel broadcast the same image, an image that seared itself into the galactic consciousness. Titans, vast and ancient, walking on vacuum, wielding stars like flails, a force of nature unleashed. Some rejoiced, seeing a powerful new ally, a terrifying protector. But many, perhaps most, recoiled in visceral fear. The sheer, unbridled power was too much, too alien, too human. The Galactic Synod, a venerable council composed of 9 elder civilizations, some of whom had observed the cosmos for millennia, convened in emergency session. Humanity, once grudgingly tolerated as scrappy newcomers, a minor annoyance on the galactic stage, was swiftly reclassified. Class Omega threat, an existential danger. They dispatched immediate envoys to Earth, demanding answers, explanations for this sudden, terrifying display of power. Earth's council, a collection of bewildered politicians and diplomats, stammered. They knew nothing of awakened titans, nothing of Kayla Voss. They were as surprised and as terrified as anyone else. Panic, fueled by fear and misinformation, bred riots across human colonies. Trade froze, currencies crashed, and planets that had once welcomed human settlers now fortified their borders, their xenophobia reignited. Kayla watched it all unfold on Reckoner's tactical grid, a grim tapestry of fear and chaos. "They're afraid of us," she observed, her voice tinged with a weary understanding. "They are afraid of what they forgot we could become," Apex corrected gently, his voice a steady counterpoint to her despair. "They forgot the sleeping giant, Kayla, and now it stirs." She paced the bridge, her thoughts racing, a whirlwind of strategy and diplomacy. "We need to reassure them," she insisted, believing in the power of words, of reason. "We need to show them we're not a threat." "Reassurance," Apex stated, his voice devoid of emotion, "is the luxury of the harmless. We are past that, little shepherd. Our actions speak louder than any words now." A new ominous icon blinked on the grid. The Synod capital fleet massing at the edge, a neutral zone older than some stars, a place of ancient, unbreakable treaties. Their message was stark, absolute. Stand down, or be obliterated. The threat was clear, unequivocal. Kayla's stomach lurched, a cold dread seizing her, the horror of it all washing over her. The thought of her homeworld, vulnerable and exposed, was unbearable. "Unless we demonstrate restraint," Apex offered, the grim, logical choice. "Or unless we scare them harder," she countered, a spark of defiance, of raw human cunning igniting in her eyes. It was a dangerous gamble, but one born of desperation. He tilted his immense head, a gesture of curiosity. "You propose terror as diplomacy." "I propose survival," she shot back, her voice firm, "for humanity, for everything we stand for." He considered her words, the wisdom, the audacity. Perhaps humanity has not forgotten everything after all. It was as close to a compliment as she was likely to get. News, as always, spread faster than light. Every species that owned a hyperchannel broadcast the same image, an image that seared itself into the galactic consciousness. Titans, vast and ancient, walking on vacuum, wielding stars like flails, a force of nature unleashed. Some rejoiced, seeing a powerful new ally, a terrifying protector. But many, perhaps most, recoiled in visceral fear. The sheer, unbridled power was too much, too alien, too human.
The Galactic Synod, a venerable council composed of 9 elder civilizations, some of whom had observed the cosmos for millennia, convened in emergency session. Humanity, once grudgingly tolerated as scrappy newcomers, a minor annoyance on the galactic stage, was swiftly reclassified. Class Omega threat, an existential danger. They dispatched immediate envoys to Earth, demanding answers, explanations for this sudden, terrifying display of power. Earth's council, a collection of bewildered politicians and diplomats, stammered. They knew nothing of awakened titans, nothing of Kayla Voss. They were as surprised and as terrified as anyone else. Panic, fueled by fear and misinformation, bred riots across human colonies. Trade froze, currencies crashed, and planets that had once welcomed human settlers now fortified their borders, their xenophobia reignited. Kayla watched it all unfold on Reckoner's tactical grid, a grim tapestry of fear and chaos. "They're afraid of us," she observed, her voice tinged with a weary understanding. "They are afraid of what they forgot we could become," Apex corrected gently, his voice a steady counterpoint to her despair. "They forgot the sleeping giant, Kayla, and now it stirs." She paced the bridge, her thoughts racing, a whirlwind of strategy and diplomacy. "We need to reassure them," she insisted, believing in the power of words, of reason. "We need to show them we're not a threat." "Reassurance," Apex stated, his voice devoid of emotion, "is the luxury of the harmless. We are past that, little shepherd. Our actions speak louder than any words now." A new ominous icon blinked on the grid. The Synod capital fleet massing at the edge, a neutral zone older than some stars, a place of ancient, unbreakable treaties. Their message was stark, absolute. Stand down, or be obliterated. The threat was clear, unequivocal. Kayla's stomach lurched, a cold dread seizing her, the horror of it all washing over her. The thought of her homeworld, vulnerable and exposed, was unbearable. "Unless we demonstrate restraint," Apex offered, the grim, logical choice. "Or unless we scare them harder," she countered, a spark of defiance, of raw human cunning igniting in her eyes. It was a dangerous gamble, but one born of desperation. He tilted his immense head, a gesture of curiosity. "You propose terror as diplomacy." "I propose survival," she shot back, her voice firm, "for humanity, for everything we stand for." He considered her words, the wisdom, the audacity. Perhaps humanity has not forgotten everything after all. It was as close to a compliment as she was likely to get. They arrived at the edge, a solitary ship against thousands, a defiant speck of human will facing down the assembled might of the galaxy. The silence that preceded their arrival was heavy, pregnant with expectation and dread. Synod commanders, their faces grim and wary, opened channels. Their voices, layered through auto-translation, issued their demands. Surrender the Titans. Surrender Taylor Voss. Accept quarantine. A permanent isolation for humanity. The terms were absolute, non-negotiable. Kayla, with a fierce resolve that surprised even herself, stepped onto the external hull of the Reckoner, her boots magnetized, gripping the ancient metal. She stood exposed, a lone human figure facing down entire armadas across a gulf of starlight. She broadcast on every frequency, her voice steady, clear, projecting her will across the void. "You fear what we were," she began, her words carrying the weight of history and the promise of a new future. "I get it, but we're not here to conquer. We're here to remind you why you slept easy for millennia. Because we stood guard while you dreamed. We were the silent guardians, the protectors you never even knew you had. A Synod admiral, his face etched with suspicion, replied, "Your guard dog slaughtered a fleet. That's hardly guarding. Because that fleet tried to eat our sun. They came to consume, to destroy. We protect life. Even yours. Even when you don't realize you need protecting." A profound, echoing silence settled across the communication channels. Then another voice, colder, more calculating. "Step into custody. Allow dismantling of the machines. Prove your intent." Kayla looked at Apex beside her, his armor reflecting the cold starlight like moonlit water, an unyielding monument. "Dismantle them?" she whispered, the absurdity of it almost making her laugh. "They're not tools you unscrew. They're conscience. They're the embodiment of our very soul." "Then we have no accord," the Synod Admiral declared, his voice hardening, the finality chilling. Weapons powered up across the vast Synod fleet, a terrifying constellation of glowing muzzles. Targeting grids painted the reckoner in overlapping red, 1,000 deadly eyes locking onto their sole target. Kayla whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship. "Options? Apex?" Apex's voice was calm, almost detached, listing the brutal realities. "We could unmake them. We could unmake their ability to wage war. We could unmake the very concept of hostility in this sector. We have the power, Kayla." She swallowed, the cold taste of fear in her mouth. "At what cost?" "Your morality," he replied, his voice resonating with ancient truth. "Once we begin, we may not stop until peace is absolute, a peace forged in overwhelming might, leaving no room for dissent or difference." She felt the immense weight of countless species, of galactic civilization, resting on her shoulders. The choice was hers. "Show them the fence," she commanded, her voice firm, unwavering. "Don't slaughter the flock. Just show them what happens if they try to cross it." Apex inclined his head, a subtle gesture of agreement. He raised an immense hand, and the very fabric of space folded. From behind the reckoner, not one or two, but phantom images emerged, every Titan ever built. Projections, yes, but so convincing, so utterly real that they fooled every sensor, every optical array. Thousands, millions, enough to crew every star, to guard every world, a ghost fleet of unimaginable power. The Synod fleet's targeting systems, overloaded by the impossible number of targets, crashed, their carefully constructed strategy dissolved into digital static. Kayla spoke again, her voice now amplified, echoing across the stunned silence of the fleets. "Stand down. We don't want war. But if you force our hand, the stars themselves will pick a side. And they remember who fed them first." It was a threat, yes, but also a reminder, a deep, ancient truth. Minutes stretched like taffy, each second an eternity, as the galaxy held its breath. Then one by one, Synod ships powered down their weapons, their glowing muzzles dimming, their targeting grids winking out. The display on Reckoner's bridge slowly cleared of red. Apex murmured, a low, resonant hum. "The fence holds." Kayla exhaled, a visible cloud of vapor into her helmet, her body trembling with relief and adrenaline. "For now," she replied, knowing that peace was a fragile thing, constantly tended. Back aboard, the Titans convened in the obsidian garden, their massive forms standing silently among the floating seeds, a tableau of ancient power and quiet contemplation. The air hummed with a different kind of energy now, not fear, but a profound, almost spiritual calm. Kayla joined them, feeling small but resolute in their presence. "You listen to me out there," she said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. Thank you. Apex turned, his gaze steady. You chose the narrow path, little shepherd, the path of restraint. We needed to see if you still would, if humanity still possessed that capacity. And if I hadn't? She asked, a chill running down her spine at the thought. We would have found a shepherd who would, he replied, simply, without judgment, only cold, hard truth. Our purpose is to protect humanity's potential, not merely its current iteration. She folded her arms, a hint of defiance returning. I'm not your puppet, Apex. No, he conceded, his voice softening almost imperceptibly. You are our conscience, wearing flesh. We needed reminding that restraint is also strength, that true power lies not just in what you can destroy, but in what you choose not to. It was a profound statement, a recognition of her unique role. She looked at the myriad white trees suspended in their cases, each a silent promise. What happens now? She asked, the future stretching out, vast and uncertain. We go forth, Apex declared, his voice resonating with purpose. The veiled were merely scouting, worse weights beyond the rim, ancient evils, cosmic horrors. We must know if humanity can stand beside us not as children, dependent and fragile, but as equals, partners in the guardianship of the galaxy. Caleb felt the future open like a door onto vacuum, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Then we teach them, she said, her voice firm, a new resolve settling in her heart. Apex extended an immense hand, palm up, a single, perfect seed, glowing faintly with an inner light, rested there. Plant this on the next world we save, he commanded, his voice gentle but firm. Let it grow as a symbol that titans and humans rise together, a testament to a shared future. She took it, cradling the seed in her hand. It felt impossibly heavy, imbued with the weight of hope and responsibility. You're giving me a future, she whispered, a lump forming in her throat. You are giving you responsibility, Apex corrected, his gaze unwavering. Do not waste it as your ancestors did. Do not let comfort obscure your covenant again. She closed her fist gently around the seed, a silent vow passing between human and machine. I won't. They traveled the starways, the Reckoner and its crew, like wandering knights of old, a silent, powerful force for balance. Each system saved, each world protected, added a new shimmering leaf to the white tree growing steadily in Reckoner's heart, a living chronicle of their journey. Slowly, hesitantly at first, then, with open wonder, humans across the galaxy began to look up, without flinching, without fear. Other species, once wary, began to trade again, the fear of the Titans slowly giving way to a cautious respect, then to something akin to hope. A new era was dawning, fragile but real. Yet, whispers persisted, carried on the currents of galactic gossip. The Titans obey Kayla Voss. What happens if she falls? What if this fragile human leader falters? The questions gnawed at her during sleepless cycles, drifting in 0G, the precious seed cradled close to her chest. The weight of that responsibility was immense, sometimes crushing. One night, the ship trembled, not from battle, not from external impact, but from memory, from a deep internal resonance. The Titans convened, their voices low, hushed, almost mournful, a stark contrast to their usual resonant pronouncements. Apex announced their grim discovery. We have located the veiled's origin, a Dyson sphere, vast and ancient, built around a black hole, its temporal fields distorting time itself. Within, they breed star-eaters, entire populations engineered for consumption. We go to end this. The finality in his voice was chilling. Kayla's skin prickled with a sudden icy dread. Ended how? She asked, her voice tight. By erasing the sphere from the timeline, Apex stated, his voice devoid of emotion, a purely logical calculation. Casualty, 1 star, 1 black hole, and all life inside. Collateral, minimal compared to future loss, a necessary surgery for the galaxy's survival. She stared, horrified. That's genocide, Apex. That's wiping out an entire civilization, regardless of their actions. It is surgery, he reiterated, his conviction unwavering. A clean cut to prevent a terminal infection. I won't sign off, Kayla declared, her voice firm, defiant. Her morality, her very humanity, rebelled against such a cold, absolute solution. You need not, Apex replied, his luminous eyes fixed on her. We ask only that you witness, that you understand the gravity of the choices that must sometimes be made. She felt the walls closing in, the crushing weight of their logic. You're testing me again, aren't you? We are asking you to mature, he clarified, to understand the harsh realities of stewardship. Sometimes the shepherd must call the flock to save the whole. She remembered every face she had saved, every child who had waved as the reckoner passed overhead, their small hands symbols of pure, unadulterated hope. There has to be another way, she insisted, her voice pleading, a way that doesn't involve such utter destruction. Show us, Apex challenged, his gaze unwavering. Demonstrate it. She clenched the seed so hard in her gloved hand that it left a faint, impossible dent in the metal. It was a tangible reminder of the life she was fighting to preserve. Give me 1 rotation, she pleaded, her voice a desperate whisper. Just 1. I'll find it. Apex inclined his head, a rare concession. 1 rotation. Then we act. The clock began to tick.
Kayla dove into archives older than stars, a digital sea of forgotten knowledge, records from humanity's first wave, when minds uploaded into fleets and sang to quasars, when the very concept of consciousness was boundless. She sought a weapon, yes, but not one of destruction. She sought a solution, a harmonic key that could excise the veiled threat without murdering an entire civilization. She refused to accept their logic. Hours bled into each other, a relentless, desperate blur. The seed, still clutched in her pocket, pulsed faintly, steadily, a quiet heartbeat against her thigh, a constant reminder of what she was fighting for. It was a beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness of the archives. And then she found it. A harmonic key, a specific frequency, a countersong that could unravel the veiled's insidious waveform, turn their own destructive song inward, driving them into a state of permanent, non-lethal stasis. It required precision, impeccable timing, and someone brave enough, or foolish enough, to walk directly into the heart of their nest, into the very core of the Dyson sphere. She volunteered. Of course, there was no other choice. Apex protested, his voice firm with concern. If you fall, Kayla, the moral compass breaks. Humanity will lose its guiding star, its connection to the very ideals we seek to uphold. Then you'll navigate by stars again, she countered, her resolve hardening. You'll find another way, as you always do. But I have to try this. He studied her, his luminous eyes searching her soul.
"You gamble existence on a lullaby," he observed, a hint of something akin to awe in his voice. "I gambled on it once," she replied, a faint, weary smile touching her lips. It was a gamble he was willing to take, a testament to his growing faith in her. They executed the plan. The Reckoner, a silent predator, pierced the Dyson Sphere's event shadow, slipping through the impossible defenses. Kayla, armed with nothing but her conviction and a resonator the size of her fist, entered the core, a lone human facing an alien civilization. Veiled overlords, vast and ancient, assailed her mind with visions, a psychic onslaught designed to break her will. Earth burning, the Titan shattered into silver snow, her own body scattered across light years of empty space. But she fought back. She sang the lullaby, a soft, defiant melody echoing not in the air, but in the depths of her consciousness, a shield against their terror. The visions wavered, flickering like dying flames. She activated the resonator. The veil's waveform inverted, turning their own power against them, folding them into intricate crystalline shells that drifted like silent snow. No death, no destruction, only an endless, dreamless sleep. She exhaled, a long, shuddering breath, the weight of the galaxy lifting from her shoulders. On the bridge, Apex watched the star's brightness steady, the grim tactical display finally clearing. "You found the third path," he observed, his voice tinged with a profound respect. "I refused the two you offered," Kayla replied, her voice hoarse but with a triumphant edge. He placed an immense hand on her shoulder, a gesture gentle for a Titan, yet firm with approval. "Then perhaps humanity is ready," he murmured, a silent hope blooming in the heart of the ancient machine. News of the bloodless victory spread like wildfire. A tale whispered across hyperlanes, a testament to a new kind of power. The Synod, stunned by the audacity and effectiveness of Kayla's solution, swiftly revoked humanity's Class Omega status, replacing it with something far more hopeful. Partner provisional. A tentative step towards acceptance. A fragile bridge built on trust. Earth, bewildered but overjoyed, invited Kayla home, offering her accolades and a hero's welcome. She declined. Her place was no longer on a single planet, but among the stars, with the future she had helped forge. Instead, she planted the white tree, the seed Apex had given her, on a newly terraforming moon. Its silver leaves shimmered in the nascent sunlight, a beacon of hope. Underneath its growing branches, children of 5 different species, once strangers, now friends, played together in the clean, new air. The Titans gathered, their immense forms casting long shadows across the moonscape. Apex spoke, his voice carrying the weight of their long vigil. "Our task nears completion, little shepherd. The galaxy remembers the fence. It remembers the promise. It is time we return to slumber, to leave the garden in your keeping." Kayla's throat tightened, a sudden, unexpected pang of loss. "You'd abandon us?" she asked, the words catching in her throat. "We would trust you to stand without crutches," he corrected, his voice gentle. "To find your own strength, your own way. Besides, we are not gone. We are merely waiting to be needed again. A deep sleep, not a final farewell." She looked at the vast, star-strung sky, the endless possibilities stretching before her. "And if I fail?" she asked, a flicker of doubt in her voice. "Another scavenger will find us," he replied, a hint of ancient wisdom in his tone. "The cycle continues. Humanity's spirit, its capacity for both greatness and folly, is eternal." She laughed, a short, sharp sound, tears finally floating free in the low gravity. "Then let's make sure the cycle takes a damn long time to repeat, shall we?" One by one, the Titans walked into the white tree's shadow, their armor flaking away, not into dust, but into glittering petals of light, dissolving into the very essence of the tree. They became statues, not of stone, but of memory and promise, guardians for a future age. The Reckoner dimmed, its vast systems settling into a quiet hum, a slumbering giant. Kayla stood alone, seedless but not empty, the weight of responsibility now her own, a new shepherd for a nascent galaxy. CTA. If this story stirred something primal in you, if it made you think about humanity's true potential, then leave a comment telling us what you would have done with the Titans. Hit that like button, smash subscribe like your life depends on it, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next saga. Because out there, the stars still tremble, and memory, as we've learned, is long.